Thank you, Secretary Rollins. Jackson Richmond at the Epoch Times. Was Secretary Rubio consulted on this, given that's the national security aspect of this, and then was the CDC consulted, given the bioterrorism aspect of this?
Yes, all of the above were consulted. To get to this point, a little bit of sausage making for everyone. It's not just we throw an event together and here we all are. The layers and layers and layers of work to go through all of the agencies is of utmost importance. And what I have learned now in a little bit of my time in government is that often, and this is the reason you don't see the ball moving down the field very often, the amount of effort it takes to integrate and work, and the long nights and the sleepless nights, especially by our team, our incredible Chief of Staff. Kaylee Buller is the one who's really been driving this alongside the rest of our team, is really inspiring. So yes, they've all been consulted. Everyone has been incredibly supportive to get to this point today. But what I would like to say as well, and thank you for that question, is that this is just the beginning. Today is the first step to get us to this announcement as we begin this important work. You'll be hearing a lot from us on this over the next 4 years, and some real metrics in place that we're putting, like how do we measure our success? And I think that's what makes this administration different. So thank you for being here. Love the Epoch Times. And next question.
Yes, Philip Rasher with AgriPulse. I have two questions. One following up on the immigration question. The president has continually said that he wants to give farmers some kind of temporary pass. Could you define what he means by temporary pass? Does that mean ICE won't go onto farms for a certain period? What does he mean by that? And the second question is, what are you going to do at USDA with regard to the remaining property owned by Syngenta and Smithfield Foods, which is a large portion of this Chinese-owned land?
That's right. Well, the second question first, as we discussed earlier, and Mr. Navarro again, and he and his team over at the White House, amongst many others, we are looking at every available option. There are multiples of options. You'll likely see an executive order on this very soon from the White House, and we'll be looking at multiple different authorities within the federal government to begin to claw that back. So that's what I'll say about that. Again, I think I answered the second question, where we are on farm labor, a little bit earlier, but what I will say is that Lori Chavez DeRimmer is our Secretary of Labor, and the H-2A visa program, all of the programs that inure to moving in seasonal ag workers are under Secretary Chavez DeRimmer. She has been working around the clock with her team. I think we'll probably hear a little bit more about this today, and the conversations will continue. But I can't underscore enough, there will be no amnesty. The mass deportations continue, but in a strategic way, and we move the workforce towards automation and 100% American participation, which again, with 34 million people, able-bodied adults on Medicaid, we should be able to do that fairly quickly. Thank you.
One more question.
Hi, thanks for doing this. Kate Goodell with the Washington Post. I'm wondering if you can perhaps spell out some of the specific threats that we're seeing with Chinese farmland at the moment. I also wanted to ask about the legislative efforts and what form the executive action might take and whether you have a timeline.
Well, first on American farmland, and I'd love for Peter to add to this, and if anyone else would like to as well. When you look at the chart, which is behind our, by the way, our new Deputy Secretary Stephen Vaden started yesterday from the great state of Tennessee, Governor Lee. You can see on this chart the hundreds of thousands, and by the way, this is just China-owned. This is not other countries of concern owned, such as North Korea, Russia, Iran, and others. You can see that a lot of those, the red blocks, are actual military bases. And ultimately, when we're talking about national security, that is, I think, the #1 concern, certainly of this administration, is what's happening there as we're looking at the threats that this country is facing, but specifically through agriculture is really, really important. Peter, I don't know if you want to add to that.
And thanks for asking that question. If you look at the gradations of threat, that's the most obvious. I mean, how did we let that happen? How did we let that happen? And CFIUS, Greek word, I think, for like doing nothing, right? But not during the Trump administration. And I can tell you, if nothing else happened today, having Brooke Rollins on that board? Give her a hand. That's a big deal.